For many families, home is a sanctuary, a place filled with love and safety. However, for the Beaver family in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, their home transformed into a living nightmare. What should have been a haven became a stage for brutality and horror, culminating in a tragedy that shocked the entire community. As the investigation into the brutal events unfolded, the unsettling reality of the Beaver family dynamics began to surface. David and April, while seemingly ordinary, harbor deeply rooted beliefs that isolated them from the outside world. Their choice to homeschool their 7 children was not just an educational decision, but a means to control and shield them from perceived external threats. Neighbors described them as reclusive, with minimal interaction and a strange aura that kept others at a distance. The Beavers maintained a tight-knit household, yet the bonds within were not built on love alone. Rumors circulated about David's aggressive behavior towards his children. Accounts from former acquaintances suggested that he exhibited both physical and verbal abuse, contributing to an atmosphere of fear. Though the full extent of the alleged abuse remained unverified, it was clear that the home was a pressure cooker of repressed emotions and unaddressed psychological issues. At the heart of the Beaver brothers' motivations lay a disturbing fascination with violence. Robert, the older brother, sought an online community to escape his isolation, eventually leading him down a dark path. His YouTube channel became a platform for him to express his thoughts, but it also served as an outlet for his growing obsession with mass violence. Videos detailing notorious shootings and killings fueled his fantasies, transforming them into a desire for infamy. As he and Michael spent countless hours immersed in this digital world, their ideas became increasingly sinister. The 2 brothers often spoke about wanting to commit a massacre that would eclipse previous tragedies. Inspired by infamous shooters, they fantasized about executing their plan, fixating on the number of victims they would claim. The brothers' imaginations ran wild, with their shared obsession morphing into a palpable sense of urgency. Despite their bizarre behaviors, both Robert and Michael continued to blend into the fabric of their surroundings. Neighbors described them as odd but harmless, unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. Their home, once a quiet dwelling, became a breeding ground for their violent ambitions. On July 22, 2015, the air was thick with tension as Robert and Michael prepared to execute their horrific plan. With their parents blissfully unaware of the impending doom, the brothers donned tactical gear, ready to commit unspeakable acts of violence. Their sisters, Crystal and Autumn, along with their brothers, Daniel and Christopher, were blissfully ignorant of the horror that was about to unfold. As night fell, the brothers initiated their attack, starting with Crystal. Walking into their room unannounced, she stumbled upon them just as they were about to plunge into violence. With their focus singularly set on their goals, the brothers wasted no time. Michael, fixated on the act of violence, urged Robert to proceed. In a frenzied assault, they attacked Crystal, inflicting severe injuries that would have claimed her life had she not shown incredible resilience. Hearing her sister's screams, April was suddenly jolted from her unawareness. David, too, was caught off guard as the chaos erupted around him. In those frantic moments, he became a target, facing a relentless barrage of stabs that would leave him unrecognizable. The brutality of the assault escalated beyond comprehension, with April suffering over 50 stab wounds in a horrific display of rage and violence. As the gruesome scene unfolded, the brothers' younger siblings were not far behind. Daniel, realizing something was horribly wrong, quickly sought help. He managed to escape to a bedroom and called 911, his voice trembling as he conveyed the chaos erupting within the house. His desperate plea for help would be crucial in the moments to come. Meanwhile, Michael and Robert continued their violent rampage, showing no signs of stopping. They were consumed by their dark desires, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. It became a grotesque tableau of familial horror, with the once safe space now drenched in blood and betrayal. The attack reached its peak as the police sirens began to echo in the distance. The sound, once a symbol of safety, now signaled the impending confrontation between the authorities and the brothers. As the chaos unfolded, Crystal, who had miraculously survived her brother's initial attack, lay wounded and blooded on the floor. With every ounce of strength, she called out to the arriving officers, leading them into the nightmarish scene inside. When the police entered the Beaver home, they were met with an unimaginable sight. The floor was stained with blood, and the horrific aftermath of the brothers' actions unfolded before their eyes. Officers quickly found Crystal, who was barely clinging to life, and rushed her to safety. As they searched for the others, the brutality of the attack became evident. There were no words to describe the devastation. Outside, Robert and Michael had fled into the surrounding woods, attempting to evade capture, but the police were swift in their response, deploying a canine unit to track the brothers down. With the scent of their crimes still fresh in the air, it didn't take long for the dogs to locate them hiding in the underbrush. When apprehended, Michael was visibly shaken, while Robert displayed a chilling indifference, even smirking at the situation. It was a harrowing contrast that would haunt the memories of those who witnessed the aftermath of the tragedy. As the investigation continued, the layers of the Beaver family's dark secret began to unravel. Both brothers were charged with multiple counts of murder, and the community struggled to comprehend how such horror could occur within their midst. The implications of their actions would ripple through Broken Arrow, leaving an indelible mark on the town and its residents. With Crystal as the lone survivor, the tale of the Beaver family became a haunting reminder of the depths of human depravity. In the aftermath of the massacre, discussions about the nature of violence, mental health, and familial relationships emerged, revealing the complex web of factors that contributed to this tragic event. As the community mourned the loss of life and innocence, reflections on the Beaver family story continued to provoke thought. How could the seeds of violence grow so deep within a seemingly ordinary family, and what lessons could be learned from such a tragic chapter in the history of Broken Arrow? In the aftermath of the tragedy, Broken Arrow became a focal point for discussions about the dark undercurrents of family life and the factors that can drive individuals to commit unimaginable acts of violence. The Beaver family's story served as a grim reminder that beneath the surface of normalcy, there can exist a reality steeped in fear, control, and unchecked aggression. As investigators dug deeper into the lives of the Beavers, they uncovered a series of alarming details that painted a picture of a household steeped in secrecy and dysfunction. Former friends and relatives spoke of David's strict authoritarian parenting style, which often crossed the line into abusive territory. He instilled a culture of fear within the home, ensuring that dissent was met with harsh punishment. This environment not only affected the children's mental well-being, but also created a breeding ground for resentment and hostility. The chilling isolation imposed by David and April extended beyond their parenting style. They had cut off the family from outside influences, fostering an environment where the brothers' twisted fantasies could thrive unchecked. With limited exposure to the world outside their home, Robert and Michael were left to stew in their own violent thoughts, feeding off one another's dangerous ideas. In the weeks following the attack, community leaders, mental health professionals, and law enforcement gathered to address the issue of domestic violence and the warning signs that often go unnoticed. They emphasized the importance of intervention and the need for open lines of communication within families. The tragedy of the Beavers highlighted the necessity for communities to be vigilant and proactive in identifying potential threats before they escalated into violence. Crystal, the sole survivor, became a beacon of hope and resilience. Her journey to recovery was fraught with challenges, both physical and emotional. As she began to process the trauma of losing her family, she found strength in sharing her story, speaking out about the realities of domestic abuse and the importance of mental health awareness. Crystal sought to raise awareness in the hope of preventing future tragedies. Her bravery resonated with many, encouraging others to break the silence surrounding their own experiences with abuse. Meanwhile, the legal proceedings against Robert and Michael unfolded in the public eye, drawing significant media attention. As the brothers faced multiple charges, their trial became a spectacle, illuminating the gruesome details of their crimes. Families across Oklahoma watched with a mix of horror and disbelief as the story of the Beaver family continued to unravel in the courtroom. Michael's defense centered on claims of mental illness, while Robert maintained a disturbing detachment, often appearing unfazed by the gravity of their actions. The courtroom was filled with tension as testimonies from law enforcement and experts revealed the extent of the brothers' premeditated plans. Graphic evidence, including photographs from the crime scene, left a haunting impression on all who attended the trial. The defense's attempts to frame the brothers as victims of their upbringing fell flat in the face of overwhelming evidence of their culpability. As the verdict approached, Crystal and the families of the victims gathered outside the courthouse, holding candles and signs that read, "Justice for the Beavers." They stood united in their grief, a somber reminder of the lives lost and the need for change within communities. The emotional toll of the case weighed heavily on everyone involved, a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the devastating impact of violence. On the day of the verdict, the atmosphere was thick with anticipation. As the jury filed in, Crystal clutched her mother's picture, a symbol of the family she lost and the hope she clung to. When the judge read the verdict guilty on all counts, the courtroom erupted into a mix of relief and sorrow. Justice had been served, but at what cost? The loss of the Beaver family would leave an indelible mark on the community, a reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind closed doors. As the brothers were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, the community began to heal, albeit slowly. Discussions about mental health, violence, and family dynamics continued to unfold, with many advocating for more resources and support systems for those in similar situations. The tragedy of the Beaver family became a catalyst for change, inspiring local organizations to offer programs aimed at preventing domestic violence and providing mental health resources. Through it all, Crystal emerged as a powerful voice for change, using her experience to educate others about the signs of abuse and the importance of seeking help. Her resilience became a source of inspiration for many, as she continued to advocate for those who couldn't speak for themselves. By sharing her story, Crystal sought to ensure that the legacy of her family would not be one of violence, but rather a testament to the strength of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable loss. The story of the Beaver family serves as a haunting reminder of the complexities of family life and the hidden struggles that can exist within. It compels us to look deeper into our own communities, to foster open communication, and to prioritize mental health. The legacy of this tragedy challenges us to confront the uncomfortable truths about violence and to take action to prevent similar horrors from unfolding in the future. As time passed, the community began to memorialize the lives lost that fateful night, establishing scholarships and support groups in the name of the Beaver children. These initiatives aim to honor their memory while also working towards a future where families could find safety and support instead of fear and violence. In the end, the story of the Beaver family reminds us that change is possible, even in the aftermath of tragedy. It calls upon us to be vigilant, to stand up against violence in all its forms, and to strive for a world where every home can be a true sanctuary. As the horror of that fateful night unfolded, Crystal, the sole survivor of the brutal massacre, found herself grappling with the traumatic reality of what had transpired. The Beaver family home, once a place of seclusion and isolation, had transformed into a crime scene soaked in blood and despair. The sounds of sirens and the chaotic movement of police officers filled the air, creating an atmosphere thick with tension and confusion. Crystal, barely clinging to life, had just endured the unimaginable. She had witnessed her brothers, Robert and Michael, turn from family to monsters. In the immediate aftermath, Crystal was rushed to the hospital, where medical staff worked tirelessly to save her life. The gravity of her injuries was staggering, yet her resilience shone through. Meanwhile, authorities began to piece together the horrifying events of that night. Investigators combed through the Beaver home, searching for answers amidst the chaos. The scene revealed the sheer brutality of the attack, walls stained with blood and the remnants of a family torn apart. As the investigation progressed, police uncovered Robert and Michael's disturbing online presence. Their obsession with violent media and real-life tragedies painted a chilling portrait of two young men, deeply influenced by a culture that glorified violence. The videos they consumed, filled with graphic depictions of murder and chaos, had seemingly warped their perception of reality. These online interactions, combined with their reclusive upbringing, had led to a dangerous blend of fantasy and intent. Public outcry was swift and fierce. News of the massacre spread like wildfire, sparking debates about mental health, gun control, and the influence of media on youth behavior. Many questioned how the seemingly ordinary boys could commit such an unspeakable act. The small town of Broken Arrow, once characterized by its tight-knit community and safety, was left in shock. The Beaver family's tragedy became a topic of national discussion, and the media descended upon the town, eager to explore the motivations behind the crime. In the months that followed, the focus shifted to the trials of Robert and Michael. The brothers, once inseparable, now faced the grim reality of their actions. Robert, the older sibling, had been the mastermind behind the plan, while Michael had followed his lead. Caught in the web of his brother's dark aspirations, their fates hung in the balance as the justice system grappled with how to handle the complex issues of guilt, mental health, and familial loyalty. The trial of Robert Beaver began with heightened tensions. As graphic details of the murder emerged, prosecutors painted a picture of a calculated and premeditated act of violence, driven by Robert's desire for infamy. Witnesses described his demeanor during the proceedings, a disturbing mix of nonchalance and arrogance, as if he reveled in the attention. This shocking behavior only fueled the anger of those who had lost loved ones that night. Michael, on the other hand, portrayed himself as a reluctant participant, attempting to argue that he had been under Robert's influence. His defense team sought to highlight the alleged mental instability that plagued both brothers. But, as the evidence mounted, it became increasingly difficult to separate the two. Their shared obsession with violence and their role in the massacre were inextricably linked. As the trials progressed, the community began to heal, albeit slowly. Memorials for the Beaver family emerged, serving as poignant reminders of the lives lost. Neighbors who had once lived in ignorance of the family's struggles now came together to support one another. United in grief, the town held vigils, illuminating the darkness that had enveloped their community, while also sparking discussions about the signs of distress that had gone unnoticed. In prison, Robert and Michael faced the consequences of their actions. Their lives would never return to normal. They were confined to a world of concrete walls and steel bars. Reports from within the prison system reveal that Robert struggled to adapt, often clashing with staff and exhibiting increasingly erratic behavior. Meanwhile, Michael, while quieter, began to exhibit signs of deterioration, drawing disturbing images that reflected his troubled mind. As the years passed, the Beaver family tragedy served as a cautionary tale, raising awareness about the importance of mental health support and intervention for at-risk youth. Educators and mental health professionals began to emphasize the need for open conversations about violence and its impacts, aiming to prevent similar tragedies from occurring in the future.